Hey YouTube watchers, it's Dr. Evelyn here, and this is one of the parts of a multi-part video trying to answer the question of what is the adjustment and what is happening on a physiological and neurologic level. So I hope you enjoy these next 3 videos that are going to come out in a series and that you can really understand what it is that a chiropractor is looking for and trying to achieve and trying to help your body with. So subscribe to the channel and make sure that you watch the entire series so that you really start to understand what it is that we are trying to do and that you can see how it applies to you in your life. Are you ready for part 3? In video 1, we talked about this concept of our sixth sense, which is proprioception. That explains the physiology of what's happening at the joint level to access the nervous system when we adjust any given vertebrae. In video 2, we talked about kind of what is really happening in the adjustment, why gapping a joint or moving the spine in a specific way really does signal and help our nervous system reset. And so here we are at the final video of this series, which is kind of like, okay, so now what? Right? Like, okay, cool. But we're going to just go a little deeper into the real profound facts of why get adjusted. Reason number 1. We talked about how proprioception helps us know where we are in space and how that helps chiropractic. But we still have all of those other senses that work through the same system, which is our nervous system. And they function very much the same way, where if we're not getting an accurate picture about what is happening in our environment and what is happening within our body, then we are not going to adapt correctly and our body is not going to have a response that will end up helping us in the long term. An example of this is when we start to run and say it's hot out. If we didn't realize that we were requiring more energy, we would not pump our heart any faster, we would not start to sweat, we would not start to breathe any deeper, and that could get us in a lot of trouble. We would not have enough blood supply to our muscles in order to keep going. So our body really needs to know what it's being demanded of. And it does this on a second by second scale. It's constantly assessing itself and responding in the necessary manner. There's actually a test that you can do called heart rate variability, which shows how often your heart rate actually changes. And it's multiple times per second. And you can actually tell if someone is unhealthy or not as neurologically healthy if they are unable to vary their heart rate second by second, meaning their body is just guessing what is happening in their environment. Another example of this is when we adapt to cold temperatures by shivering or crimping up our muscles or having our hair stand on end, or losing the circulation in our hands so that it can keep our vital organs warm. So just how chiropractic makes proprioception better so that we know where we are in space, chiropractic is also helping us have better sensation and better awareness of what's happening in our environment and allowing us to get those signals accurately and efficiently to our brains so that we can respond appropriately in the least amount of time. And this is a really amazing marker of health, research has shown. Reason number 2, we experience something called spinal cord tension. Dr. Donald Epstein did a lot of the initial research in this, and Dr. Heidi Havoc has done a lot more research more recently in this topic. But spinal cord tension is basically the truth that the spinal cord and the tension that is on it affects the way that it functions. So this actually makes perfect sense if you think about it. Remember from the earlier videos that we have our spinal cord running through here, all this yellow that's not coming out the sides but is running through here. Remember that that is the spinal cord. It attaches at the top, it attaches at the bottom with dura. And so 2 fixed points have they can only go so far. So if we are bent forward in bad posture, if our vertebrae are twisted up like this, we're going to be winding that tension up like you would anything, just like another rubber band here. If you have two fixed points and you stretch it like this to bend it, you're going to be putting tension on it. If you stretch it like this, you're going to be putting tension on it, right? And our spinal cord works very much like a guitar string. If it's not strung properly at the right tension, it's not going to make the same sound. It's not going to work on the same frequency or have the same resonance. And so chiropractic adjustments decrease spinal cord tension by making the vertebrae be able to move freely in their range of motion. And also some techniques actually address the dura a lot more intentionally. The dura is what surrounds the spinal cord. So this is super important, you guys. If you had a frequency that was like that sharp violin sound that was constantly going into your brain, your body might think that there was something wrong, something to be stressed about. So you're living under these chronic states of stress. And this is totally related, they've found from the research, to the way that we perceive our environment and our world. Signals from our environment and our body go to a different location in our brain based on the spinal cord tension, okay? That is crazy. Meaning, if we're all tense like this and all gnarled, we are getting signals from our body going to our amygdala, which is our fear and stress response center. And when we are floating our spinal cord, we are so able to transcend into that parasympathetic frontal cortex, rational thought. We're not reacting, we're thinking things through, we're seeing them for what they are. So that is life-changing, right? And all of that can happen when we free up the vertebra and their movement, therefore freeing up the spinal cord and its tension. What this means is that if you find yourself stressed out and constantly responding to stress and worrying and having anxiety and all of these other things that are just so epidemic right now in our society, you could be a victim of spinal cord tension. And you could really benefit from just releasing some of that tension by sitting up straight, having somebody help you elongate your posture, having somebody help you with the freedom of movement of each one of those vertebrae, decreasing the tension on the whole dura and spinal cord. And chiropractic techniques do this, which is so fantastic. Third thing and last thing I'm going to talk about in the video is that we are having a neuroplastic effect on the brain by getting adjusted. So we've talked about how we're creating better function. We've talked about how we are reducing stress on the spinal cord and changing where signals go in our brain. And we're also creating new patterns in the brain and spinal cord. So our neurology works on pathways and patterns. We literally connect one neuron to another to create a pathway. That's how we learn how to do everything in our life. So when our body comes up with one of those adaptations, it becomes really good at adapting to the things, the stresses that are the most common to it. So if we're constantly sitting, for example, our body's going to come up with a strategy to respond to the pressures from gravity in a seated position. And it's going to do that really quickly and automatically unless we do something to combat that pattern. And with chiropractic and freeing up the tension in the nervous system and freeing up the dysfunction in the nervous system, we are actually continuing to get new input into our nervous system so that we do not just rely on the old patterns and the old ways. We're constantly adapting accurately in real time. And so what we do with chiropractic adjustments is we start to retrain the system. No, we don't like this pattern anymore. It's not serving us. It's actually hurting us, and we'd rather we figured something else out. And we're creating flexibility in the spinal cord and in the nervous system so that your body can come up with better strategies so that you can become more comfortable. This is a physical thing that happens in the nervous system. And there's more research about that too, and how chiropractic make human more neuroplastic, more able to learn, more able to integrate, more resilient, and just better at coping with life. You can really, chiropractic is training your body to be fit to handle more and more without it destroying you physically. I hope that I was able to bridge the gap with you guys from how it works on the spinal level, why chiropractors are going to assess and look at the musculature in the spine, and how that is actually a window into the nervous system, and then how we address the nervous system with the adjustments, why it's important to get those joints moving correctly, because it's really helping the entire nervous system function correctly, which helps everything function correctly. And then also by freeing up the movement in our spine, we're actually allowing freedom of movement in our entire spinal cord. We're allowing signals from our environment and from our body to go to our frontal cortex in our brain, which allows us to then be rational, respond consciously, not be in a state of chronic stress, not be in a state of reaction, and be in our really healthiest state, mind and body. And if you're really interested in this video in particular, I do an entire 2-hour workshop on shifting your system, talking about neurology and spinal cord tension. And I also go through all of this in my patient education when you start coming in for appointments. But in all reality, there's no better way to understand it than when you experience it for yourself. And that is the wonder and the amazement of being a chiropractic patient. It is not just about, oh, okay, now I can move a little better. Every time that you move a little better from a chiropractic appointment, you know that your entire body is functioning that much better. Okay guys, that concludes the third video of the series. We had proprioception, subluxation, and then finally why the adjustment. And so if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to contact me. Continue to watch the channel, subscribe, please. The more people that know about this stuff, the better our world will be. So be a part of the change. That this served you in one way or another. Take care, everybody. Until next time.